Hello and welcome to the Manifestation Podcast with Peggy McColl. Peggy is a world-renowned wealth, business, and manifestation expert, as well as the best-selling author of the brand new book, The Demand Principle. Are you ready to manifest your dreams? Tune in now.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Manifestation Podcast. We're here for a special episode with Selin Bilgin. Selin? We're having fun here, folks. It is Peggy McColl with Selin Bilgin. There we go. All right. She is the creator of the magnificent Wellness Marathon. We're going to talk about wellness today, and it's one of Selin's favorite subjects. And of course, she's very qualified to talk about that. She is a certified health coach. She understands health, nutrition, wellness, and creating a greater sense of peace in your life. And I love that. She really portrays what she teaches and speaks on as well. So today we have a special session. I want to welcome you, Selin, and thank you for being here and being willing to share your knowledge and your experience with everyone that's listening to our podcast.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to sharing any information that will be helpful to your listeners today.
I love that. You know, when I think about wellness, I think back to many years ago when I first started setting goals, and I was totally into the goal setting thing and, setting these objectives for things and career moves and earnings and all of that. And I was so delighted, and probably patting myself on the back to some degree, telling a friend about all these goals that I had set and things that I had manifested. And she just said, well, let me just stop you. And I said, what's up? And she goes, well, where's health? Where's wellness in any of these goals that you're talking about? And I didn't really even understand the question because I was a healthy girl. I was young. I was in my 20s at the time. And she said, if you don't have wellness or health, you have nothing. It won't matter how nice your house is or how beautiful your car is or what kind of career you have, because if you don't have health and wellness, you're going to be really challenged. So let's start by really focusing on something that may be obvious, but it's not always obvious to everyone. And that is, why does health matter?
I love that. I love that you share your story about goal setting and wellness, because it's something that we can take for granted when we have health. And until we have something that goes quote unquote wrong, even if it's carpal tunnel or arthritis or headaches, insomnia, things like this, right? And so because we at Dynamic Destinies are really here to help people manifest and raise their vibration, health matters, because then we are distracted by those symptoms, and then we're not able to maybe visualize as effectively or have the energy to go after our goals, or even feel as present to be with our family or even our manifestations like the nice car, for example, if we're not healthy. And so health is so important for living a life that we love.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Recently I went and had a flu shot, and it's the first time I've ever had one. And my husband wanted to have it because COVID's going on right now. And he just felt, I don't know, for some reason it might protect us better. I don't know. So we went for a flu shot, and I discovered that one of the side effects of having a flu shot, in addition to potentially a sore arm where they stick the needle in, is you might feel like you have the flu. And it doesn't last long. It's a temporary thing. And that's what I experienced. And maybe I planted that idea in my mind. I don't know, but I knew it would be temporary. So I had the flu shot. The next morning I woke up and I felt like I had the flu. And, but I kept working, and I had a lot on my plate. I was busy, but I felt like a motorboat that's trying to go down the water to, sail across the water with an anchor, like firmly embedded in the ground, like underneath the water, right? I just felt like I was it was a struggle to get anything done. It was a real challenge. And it gave me an appreciation for when people don't feel good on a regular basis, and how that can really be a detriment to anything that you're doing. And so I think it's important to really understand that and recognize that health is something important. Do you believe it's important for people to focus on health goals even when they're feeling well?
I love that question. And I'll share within my own life to answer that. So I am now a registered nutritionist, but I was not one of those people that grew up healthy. You know, there's people who just from a young age, they're working out, they're running marathons, and it's just a part of who they are. Well, for me, it was not that way. I always had struggled with body image, and I was on sleeping pills by the time I was 16. I was
Oh,
yeah, I was, and I was we talk, you know, you mentioned your story as well with feeling suicidal, depressed. I was so anxious and depressed at a young age where I was self-harming. I developed into an eating disorder in my early 20s. And so, but my goal was always to lose weight. That was like the biggest goal that I ever had. And my life consumed that. And so that was not a goal worthy of me either. Even the goal of just being able to sleep. Either my goals were not big enough or they were negative centered. They were not a whole lifestyle. It wasn't something that pulled me into a greater version of myself. And so for health goals, I would have an identity instead that you're creating. You know, using the Power Life script as you do, for example, is writing out who are you becoming? Why are you becoming this way? And if you have this ideal version of yourself, think about the kinds of actions and habits that this person has. What time would they wake up? What do they do first thing in the morning? What kinds of habits do they have while they're moving throughout their day? How do they take care of stress? And so I recommend having an identity goal, and maybe if your goal is to run a marathon, perhaps little smaller goals within that. But that is how I would approach the goal, because weight loss is, I was obsessed with losing weight, and for some reason I always had 10 pounds and then or even more to lose. Whereas when I had a goal of being this ideal me, that's when everything else started to shift.
right. Well, you think about the way we live. And like what I was raised as well in a family, we didn't have a lot of money. And so when people are challenged with not even having money when they're younger, what do they buy? They buy inexpensive foods and processed food, stuff that's in a box or a can, like Chef Boyardee. And I don't mean anything against, that product, but I don't know how healthy that is for you, right? Like
Mhm.
meat in a can that could have been sitting on the shelf for who knows how long. Like preservatives and things like that. I think awareness is really important when it comes to health as well. Like to be aware that you're putting that into your body. Is that something that you also go into in the wellness marathon?
Yes. So a big item here is to really start with where you are and what you have. So if you are working with canned foods, let's look at options that work for you with canned foods. If you're looking at, okay, you have the budget to do organic, what are the things to buy organic? It doesn't have to be this whole lifestyle inside out upgrade, but having those habits and items that you can switch up to. One of the biggest things is with marketing. We'll see a cereal that says high fiber, and instead anyone can make the switch to steel cut oats. It might even be more budget effective long term. And so some of it is undoing some of the knowledge that we hear, or we've seen different diets throughout history, the Atkins or keto or whatever it is. That's all someone else is getting paid by a method or some sort of program or book with that. We understand that. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you're wanting to achieve overall wellness, it really is having those basics. And that is what we go over in the wellness marathon.
Yeah, I think it's so important to understand that. My brother went through some health challenges about a year ago, and we started chatting about some of the new habits that he had created in his life. And one of the habits that he started was reading labels and paying attention
Mm.
to like saturated fat and sodium as an
Yep.
example. And he was
Hmm.
telling me that one of the nutritionists that he worked with had told him that when you look at a label, um, especially in his situation, like do not buy stuff that has saturated fat greater than 5% or sodium greater than 5%. And I remember him telling me about that. I went to the grocery store and I was buying our groceries, and I'd pick up stuff and I'd look. holy smokes, like 12%, 17% or other stuff. Go to the frozen food section. I just got almost obsessed with looking at all the foods, and like go into the frozen foods section and pick up something that has a healthy name. I won't say the name because I certainly wouldn't want to get in any trouble here, but you pick up this thing that has a healthy name and look at the back. It's like 37% saturated fat,
Mhm.
28% sodium or higher. And
Yes.
I think what happens is that people are simply unaware of the destruction that they're doing. And
Mhm.
I think it's important to understand that. Now, there are a lot of talk out there about different types of diets. Like, what do you suggest? So what are your thoughts on diets? Like, should people go on diets, not go on diets? What do you think?
That's a really great question, and I would first assess where you are with your needs nutritionally. So if you have arthritis or IBS or any sort of um, condition that is arising from and it's giving you symptoms, I would look at what are your main objectives. So do you need to, because all of those conditions have a micronutrient imbalance, right? So if you have arthritis or any sort of item ending in itis, it's inflammatory. So
Uh,
you really want to make sure you are eliminating hydrogenated oils like the trans fats, reducing the amounts of saturated, unless it's in coconut, for example, coconut oil. And so start to look at what do you need? What are your objectives? If you're looking to release weight or gain weight, you're going to have a different goal. If you're postpartum versus trying to be pregnant, that's also another goal. So I would look at
Interesting.
that and then look at really the most important thing people need to realize is whole foods, right? And so after that, it's pretty darn simple. I do believe that most people know what to eat inherently. It's
Yeah.
just some of the messaging or cravings from micronutrient deficiencies that get in the way. So I wouldn't go for any diet because it's short term. Like keto, for example, was developed because of epileptic children. They needed to have more fat, and they saw that once they fed these children more healthy fats, they would have less episodes of seizures. And so that they did more research and saw that some people would release weight from that. Diets are not meant to be long term, and I'm really much about having sustainable long term results.
I love that. I think it's just about eating, like learning to eat healthier, learning to be healthier.
Mhm.
So why did you decide to create the wellness marathon? Like why now?
I am so excited to share the wellness marathon because we, even as a team, see that one of the biggest things people want to manifest is greater health. Because, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, there might be symptoms that hold you back, or maybe you're just feeling tired. And how do you work on your best selling book or you're getting into Hollywood when you're feeling fatigued or have brain fog? And so we saw this as a big need for people. And then we also see that improving self esteem and confidence is a big part of it. And so I do not believe that we can actually feel as confident until we really look and feel the way we want to as well. And so this is really the time now more than ever to step into this new decade, pandemic or not, into how we really want to live for the rest of our lives. And the Wellness Marathon teaches you the habits. It's not a specific diet, it's not a specific way of being. It's habit upgrades, and it goes through all areas from sleep to emotional eating to weight release to healthy aging, all of it.
Right. That's so good. As you're sharing that, Celine, I'm thinking about there have been times when I've been in a restaurant eating a meal and all of a sudden I feel sad. And
Mhm.
because of the food I ate. And there's certain things, and I've noticed that. Another thing I've noticed is depending on what kind of foods you eat in the evening, and then you go to bed, and then you're flip flop all the time. And I remember hearing one time someone saying digesting food is one of the biggest calorie. No, how did they say it? Like it's one of the biggest things that you're doing in the evening. So don't eat late at night, right? I remember learning that as well. So is that something that you cover about the emotional stuff, the emotional eating, and how that impacts your moods, sugar, and all of that?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of folks want to reduce their sugar intake. And the thing is, sugar, for example, we're just using this example, is not inherently bad. It exists in bananas and carrots and sweet potatoes, though we're overdoing it. and it's hidden in, like, whether it's ketchup or salad dressings and things like this. And so there is a direct impact on mood and food. We actually see in studies where patients with diabetes, for example, will have greater mood swings than anybody else. We even see this. I'm sure you have been hangry, I've been hangry, and so we see that. And that's really the biggest thing, is the impact on our food and energetically as well. So, you said the food was prepared. It could have been the person preparing the food. It could have been the animal that was in, the not the greatest space as well. And that's why I'm such a proponent of having organic, wild fed, grass fed, if you do eat meat. But there is, and actually my life started to change when I realized the connection between what I eat will change the way I feel. And that's why a lot of us go into emotional eating, because we want to just feel better, and food is a temporary resource for that. But
Yeah,
we go
absolutely true.
into that.
I'm just having a flash of thought. I remember working with one client, and she had worked on a book, and she called the sugar one of the poisons, one of the white poisons. She said there's three white poisons: salt, sugar, flour. And I never forgot that, because it's, I don't think people realize salt, sugar, flour, and how much salt, sugar, flour that we eat. I remember there was also another colleague of mine had created a program on weight loss for women that feel too much, because they
Mm.
binge eating, right? Emotionally, they get sad, depressed, whatever, and eat, rather than, like, some people go the opposite way. They don't eat, they stop eating.
Mhm.
They,
Mhm.
but you mentioned hangry, like that's when you're hungry and you're angry at the same time. We were out recently. I don't remember where we were, but I was with my daughter-in-law Kayla and my grandson James, and James was hungry, and he's 9, and energetic young boys, they want to eat often. When he comes here, I'm often impressed with how much he eats, and I'll attempt to have healthy foods for him when he's here. But we had been out, and I don't know, we were shopping. I think we were buying clothes for James for school, and it had gone beyond the point where he wanted to eat, and he was not in a very good space. He was in a bad mood, and Kayla said to him, James, all you're experiencing is you're hangry right now. And I remember hearing her, hangry? What's hangry?
Ah,
And you just mentioned that, but I found that myself, like if my sugar levels drop, like out of my
exactly.
way, right? It's not pretty. So I think it's really, really important to understand that as well. Also really believe with what you're teaching, and I've, obviously had a wonderful sneak peek in behind the program, is so much valuable. That was the thing that I noticed about the Wellness Marathon, is how much content you have, and how important this is. Like when you talk about dealing with stress, right? How that, it's wellness marathon, how stress can impact you. And I've often, working with the manifestation clients that I work with, have talked about how when you're in that state of stress, worry, guilt, anger, whatever emotion is, you shut down all creativity. But how's it affecting you physically when you're experiencing those emotional states as well?
I love this question. This is so important. And I truly believe, and eventually would love to, like, see more research on this as well. The research that we do see currently, for example, when it comes to fertility, I just want to geek out for a second here, but cortisol, our stress hormone, and progesterone, which maintains the woman's uterine lining, actually is made out of the same ingredients. And when we have chronic cortisol, so chronic stress, even if it's the thoughts of I'm not good enough, or does this person like me, or am I going to be late, or whatever it is, those thoughts alone will trigger chronic cortisol. And what happens is our body is more concerned with our survival than it is with our reproduction. And so it will steal, it's called the progesterone steal, will steal away from the production of progesterone. Therefore, you will have more cortisol to make, but less progesterone. So then that's when we start to see infertility or irregular cycles. We also see, for example, people who are depressed or anxious for long terms, they are more likely to have osteoporosis, because when we have excess cortisol, it actually excretes calcium from the bones. And
Wow.
Another example is digestion and constipation, actually. So our intestines are made from the same muscles as you see in your biceps, for example, and our intestines contract when we're under stress. And so you will experience constipation, which will then lead to other challenges later on, but also you are then not able to secrete amylase, pepsin, which help you digest protein and carbohydrates. And so when you're not digesting in your stomach, then it goes onto your intestines and you feel bloating, gas, etc. And so the root of it all begins within stress and on our mental perceptions. And this is why I love what you teach, because you always talk about their emotional state. And that's why, again, wellness will help you with manifestation. Manifestation will help you with wellness.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. It really is. And I mean, it's really complete. And I think one of the blessings with the Wellness Marathon that you really bring to the table is your deep understanding of manifestation techniques from the psychological point of view, because you blend that in with the health and the nutrition and the wellness aspects. And it makes it more complete, because a lot of people don't understand how powerful their own mind is as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to wellness as well. And
Mm-hmm.
like years ago, I wanted to write a book. I think I mentioned this to you, may or may not have, called Stop Digging Your Grave with Your Mouth. And the idea behind that was to stop speaking negatively, like to stop giving energy to the things that you don't want. Like, and even when you're angry and you're shouting, or you're maybe upset at yourself, or you're even saying things that are, non-supportive of the outcomes that you desire, it's destructive, right? Like, stop it, stop it. But then there's the other aspect, the knowledge of, if you're continually putting in, I have I'll just say I have someone I know, they don't live in the same city as I am, but that I'm aware of, that drinks pop all day long, like sodas. They drink, either, anyways, I won't mention names, I won't mention brands, but they drink sodas all day long. Well, when they were in their 30s, they had to get their teeth removed, like teeth removed, because they were rotten and borderline diabetic. So when I think about stop digging your grave with your mouth, those are the kinds of things. Or people that are smoking cigarettes, just thinking, or drinking alcohol, excessive amounts. And it doesn't even have to be excessive. It could be just small amounts over a long period of time. And then they get to the point going, why am I sick? So, a big part of what you're teaching in the Wellness Marathon is not only the, what to do now kind of thing to create greater wellness in your life, but also how to prevent. It's hugely preventative, I find, with what you're teaching as well.
Yes. And I want to just make a note about the smoking or drinking. It's like we all know inherently not to do these things, but what the program really addresses is really a lot of the emotional freedom that comes from, well, I guess it's first, it's almost the thoughts first. It's the thoughts first, which creates the emotion. And clearly it's and a lot of the time we'll get a book on how to eat a certain way or how to quit smoking, but unless it's addressed from the thought level, which then translates to emotions, because we will smoke or drink or whatever it is or eat because of our emotions.
Right.
And so, and then again, as I just mentioned, emotions come from our thoughts. And that's why the program is so important. That's why the Power Life script is so important, because it addresses well-being from the thought level first, which is what I don't see as much out into the world.
Yeah. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And I just was so blown away. Like, I know you've been working on this for a long time. And when I saw the final result, when I saw the final product, I was absolutely amazed at everything, the depth that you go into and the breadth of all the content that you cover as well. I do want to ask you one more thing before we wrap up today, is you also included breath work. Tell me why
Mhm.
that's important to wellness.
Oh, good question, Peggy. So, and I invite all of us listening to just take a moment and tune into our breath. So much of the time, we are not in tune with the depth of our breath. And our breath will show us how we are feeling. It will show us if we are in sympathetic or parasympathetic mode. And again, the more that we are in this stress mode, the more that our body is going to show us those symptoms of, again, headaches or even acne inflammations and things like this. And so when we get back into the breath, which is a free tool that we can use anywhere, anytime, that will have you come home to yourself, no matter what you're dealing with. And having that will always help you reset and come into awareness. And actually in the program, teach you 2 different techniques on how to use your breath to come back to yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so healthy. It's really healthy. I do that now. Like if I find myself feeling anxious, just take some deep breaths. And I think it's important to have a practice of some deep breathing. Most people are shallow breathing, right?
Yes.
They're not oxygenating their body. And it's one of the best things that you can do. I also love that you include, I mean, there's so much here, like gut cravings, what your body is trying to tell you. You talk about the this is one that I found to be really, really valuable, as well as the whole idea behind bloating, gas, indigestion, that type of thing, and healthy weight release. So I want everyone listening, Selin's here with us. She's on the podcast. We've been together here for just over 20 minutes, sharing you some of the highlights from that. Just really take what she's saying here and take it seriously, because we're talking about your life. We're talking about your health here. And for those of you that are listening, I really want to encourage you to go to thewellnessmarathon.com. Nice and simple, right? The Wellness Marathon. So what Selin has done is she's really designed this program over a 26-day period. And the reason why she did it that way is because, like a marathon, 26 miles, it's a step-by-step approach. But you do have the opportunity to really go in and grab whatever information you want at any time. It's all there. As soon as you register, you're going to get access to all of the information. But Selin, I want to thank you so much for stepping into something that's really profound and sharing it with the world, because you may not realize this or not, but you may be saving a whole bunch of lives out there. You're definitely going to help people experience greater wellness and also greater enjoyment, because when you're healthier, when you're feeling better, life is just so much better, right? So Thank you so much for being here. Anything else you wanted to wrap up before we close it off?
I really want to say that this could be the year, this could be the program, this could be the time of your life where it finally works for you, where if you just borrow our belief in you, that you can finally make this health puzzle work for you. I know it can happen, and our team is here to support you. This is your time, and it just takes a little bit of belief. If you have to borrow hours, you can do that tenfold, 100-fold, and we're here for you, and I know you can do this. So thank you for having me, Peggy, and I look forward to seeing you all in the program.
Yeah, me too. All right, everyone. Well, this is Peggy McColl for the Manifestation Podcast. We'd like you to check out the Wellness Marathon at thewellnessmarathon.com. And if you love this podcast and you have others in your life that you care about, share it with them as well. As a matter of fact, that's a great gift idea. Give this author marathon to someone that you love, someone that you appreciate. What a great gift that would be. So thank you again, Selin. I appreciate you. I appreciate all our listeners. I look forward to seeing you guys again on another episode of the Manifestation Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Manifestation Podcast with Peggy McColl. Take your learning deeper by signing up for the free morning manifestation videos at morningmanifestation.com. And follow Peggy on all social media channels for daily updates. See you again.